Thank you very much for people attending. I know there's a lot of people from Cape Town area, the southern suburbs, that want to be here, and we're going to make a recording for them as well and have slides ready. But thank you for people coming. I see there's more people coming in there as well. What I would like to do before we start, first of all, thanks to LaunchLab, and we've got Pius, and I think David Krieger is also, where's David? He's around the corner, okay. Pius is, what's your role? Yeah?
I am Community Liaison Officer for the LaunchLab. Yeah.
That's it. So Pius is going to also present today, and he's going to talk about collaboration between MIIA, the Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa, and LaunchLab, and we've got some talk about the Hardware of Humanity project, and that's your name for it. And I remember the previous, there was a business mixer meeting where I presented that, but it will be great for you to present that tonight. So thank you very much, and thanks for the venue. Appreciate that. Just quickly, in terms of what we have available here. Luke in Damascus Coffee is still, if people want coffee, he's probably just going to be here for another 5-10 minutes. So if you want coffee, you're welcome to buy. But we do have water there, we've got wine, we've got beer, we've got snacks and stuff like that as well. So we'll bring this. As a matter of fact, it will become, when we, just after the talks, we'll interact and you can have your drinks and stuff like that. But the water is available if you want. If you're thirsty. Okay, so restroom is just, if you go here and to the left, you will see it's there. And I think, Pius, that's about it. Well, it's nothing else you want to say about LaunchLab and so forth. We can maybe afterwards we can talk more about that. There's a few people here that haven't been here before. Okay, so the agenda for today, as communicated via our channels, LinkedIn and everywhere, it's 4 things. So it's a shorter menu agenda than the previous time. We've got less speakers. We've got 2 things that I want to present. The first thing is I'm going to present on solving intelligence and solving real world problems. And I want to talk about a collaboration between Cortex Logic and MIIA. And we've been talking to corporates about this, and we actually talk quite a bit about MIIA and the people here, and I want to see who in the MIIA community also share that similar kind of vision that we have. And I know there's a number of people here that's interested in advancing the state of the art in machine intelligence. We had some really interesting talks about that. So the first part will just be that. Then I'll do a quick demonstration of Bennit. Bennit, the virtual production assistant, it's built on IBM Watson services technology. On YouTube, I do have a video of the presentation and the demo. So if you want to look at that in more detail, but I hope I've got internet. I think I've got internet here, but it's absolutely needed to do the demo because it's cloud-based solution, and you actually make use of Watson services in the cloud. So we'll see what it works. Then we're going to jump to Paul Saunders. We've together founded the Data Science Academy, and you're going to give an update on where we are. So we've been speaking to a number of corporates about that. Seems to be a significant interest in that, and I know there's people even here that's interested in some of these training courses for the modern data scientists. And for me, it's not just the modern data scientists, it's also just machine intelligence expertise. So we will be looking at courses in that area as well. And then we're going to end off with Pius' presentation. He's actually going to talk about the 4th Industrial Revolution and humanity of hardware project, where it fits in. So looking forward to his presentation as well. So without further ado, let's start here. I've been using this it's my front-end slide for a number of talks, but it really captures a lot of what we're trying to do, even with MIIA, where we want to use exponential technologies like machine intelligence and data science and all of those kind of things to help transform Africa and help shape our future. So this title is all about that, shaping our future in the smart technology era. And people like us that's interested in these technologies, that's got skills, and we see the problems, it's how to actually connect it and how to address those problems. So, and this talk is about that. So let's fire away. I'm going to skip. Maybe I just want to quickly say that for me, a personal mission, and even with MIIA, is solving intelligence for a better world. You see, what can we do with this technology how can we advance the state of the art to create intelligent systems to really help us excel and solve our problems. So it's always about this. And even the company that I've been the longest with, my first company, Season Systems, was really about applying artificial intelligence, neural nets, decision trees, technology in solving problems in various industries. So it's really kind of a life mission as well. But I think there's so much more to do in this regard. And just as background, I've published an article on LinkedIn. And if you're interested, I recommend that you read that because it provides a nice background in terms of the topics, what are the issues, what can AI do right now, and what can't it do. There's something about that. So just an accurate understanding of reality around artificial intelligence. And Andrew Ng, the guy that was at Stanford, he's now the chief data scientist of Baidu. He wrote an article on that, and I've commented on that article as well. And it's maybe worthwhile reading that. Then the next step is about what is the current state, and it's actually fascinating. If you just read tech news, and you see what Microsoft, Google, Apple, Amazon, and all these players are trying to position themselves. And even General Electric, the company that I sold my first business to, they are partnering with this and Microsoft, and they're investing billions of dollars in becoming a software and analytics company as well. So it's fascinating to see what's happening. And there's so many startups. And there's one slide that shows, there's a new one out from Bloomberg Beta called the Machine Intelligence Landscape 3.0. I've got it here as well. And it's quite interesting how it has evolved. And that is only also scratching the surface. And in that LinkedIn article, I've got that as well there. And I've got some comments around that as well. So what's the current state of machine intelligence? And then the rest of that article is actually talking about what about Africa? What are we doing here? And I talk specifically about a partnership between, and I think we want to encourage all sorts of companies and other organizations that want to advance the state of the art. And basically for me it's about making our machine intelligence toolbox much stronger. So so you can have better tools to solve problems. If you read Andrew Ng's article, he was actually saying we're doing if you look at all the stuff, how we apply it, even Google's state-of-the-art stuff, it's all supervised learning, and it's really still a limited application of machine intelligence. So the scope for doing better and greater things is there. So, and it's also how do you apply to business problems. So you need to understand your problems and your applications and shape it. So very interesting. Anyway, so I encourage you to read that. So I'm going to skip some of this. I actually want to quickly just talk about this, and the next slide will actually picture the Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa. As a matter of fact, it's there. Now, Cortex Logic is all about making machine intelligence work. So you can see it speaks to that mission of solving intelligence and applying it. And the way we position this, and I had some interesting talks with Jacques also, we talked about why is it so wide here. If you look at the bottom layer here, it talks about commercial, open source, and proprietary software. Now, if you look at the machine intelligence software, what's happening right now, it's super interesting. When I started my first company, there was not really open source machine intelligence software really available. And so we had to write things from scratch in C++, a number of students electronic engineering students, and they did things in MATLAB, but the computer science students, they wrote it from scratch. And we implemented all the various algorithms and various techniques. So it was very much proprietary and building it like that. That world has changed completely. And it's quite interesting to see what Google and all these companies are actually doing in open sourcing, making their technology very quickly available and creating an ecosystem around that. Like Google with TensorFlow, for instance. And it's almost like all these other companies say, what do we do with this now? And like Andrew Ng said as well, it's, even though it's open source available, it's also not that easy to apply the open source stuff to solve a problem. There's a lot of glue and a lot of things that you need to do to make it actually work. So you need some people that can work with open source and so forth. So it's not an easy thing. We've got people from ShopRite representatives here. We were there talking to some of their data scientists as well, and it was quite interesting. Their approach was also, we're actually going to go open source. We want to use PySpark, and we want to use Python, and our data scientist needs to be literate in open source software technology and stack and so forth. So and you see that also. I was last week at Barclays as well, and I've got a very good idea of where they are in terms of applying artificial intelligence and so forth. A lot of stuff is still rules-based, but they are also playing around with open source stuff. So it's there. And what we say with Cortex Logic is, let's be real about what's available, and let's really understand the limitations, the strengths and limitations of the various technologies. So if you look at commercial, there's a bunch of interesting technology. If you look at IBM Watson, for instance, we've selected to use that for our first minimum viable product for Bennit specifically. But there's Google as well, one of the best speech recognition APIs. Microsoft is coming to the party big time with their Lewis and all these kind of technology. And as a matter of fact, OpenAI, the company or the non-profit organization that's got $1 billion funding to create safe artificial intelligence, an advanced state of the art, but also creating safe artificial intelligence, they've now partnered with Microsoft as well to use Azure, the cloud, and because of the FPGAs and the equipment that they've got available there, it's an attractive offering. So, and they first use Amazon as well. They still use Amazon, but it's just interesting to see these things happening, and you got to think about cloud infrastructure, who's the players. So that's an important part of it. So I think if you want to build world-class solutions, I want to not be blindsided. I want to be open-minded. I want to see exactly what's available and so forth. So I think there's a thing for commercial. Open source, there's a bunch of stuff available there, and then you can create various different types of IP on different types of layers. You can create your own algorithms, but it's about how you apply the different technology as well. So you've got to get this base layer right and advance the state of the art. But then the two things that we're doing in Cortex Logic is really data science services and smart applications. And one of the key smart application or types of smart applications is intelligent virtual assistants and advisors. And Bennit is one, but we're looking at building other ones for other industries like healthcare, education, finance, and so forth. Robo-advisors for wealth management, insurance, medical insurance, etc. And then you can use that to solve problems. But the interesting thing is, this type of stuff is also generating a new stream of data. So apart from all the existing data that's available, anything that you capture in terms of conversation is there, it's available, and then you want to mine that. That's why data science services is still pretty important. You want to automate that, but you want to still utilize that to do back-end data mining. So it goes to be hand in hand to solve real-world problems. The next slide is just talking about solving intelligence for a better world. And here I'm just coloring it in, effectively. So here you can see, and I've just carefully selected some of the open source stuff that's really best of breed, but there's some others as well. And I'll show you the machine intelligence landscape 3.0, what it looks like. As well, you will see just what's available. And this is just scratching the surface. But On the open source front, TensorFlow, OpenAI is making things available. There's OpenSec, that's great from a semantic knowledge. If you want to build a world model and have meaning, and make sure that the artificial intelligence can understand. It's not just text and doesn't know the meaning. So with OpenSec and those type of stuff, you can actually build solutions that's knowledgeable. But there's Spark, there's MLib, there's PySpark, there's so many different things that's available. Then on the commercial front, these are some of the core big players in the AI space. I've listed GE there as well, but especially Google, IBM, Microsoft, Facebook. They've also formed an alliance, a partnership of AI. And I think it was pretty much Google, Amazon, IBM, Facebook, and Microsoft. Part of that. And then with proprietary R&D, what we mean there is, I think a key part, if you want to create intelligent virtual assistants, contextually aware cognitive systems that learn at scale, supports unsupervised learning, and in the article I actually mentioned some of the areas that needs quite a bit of research, and unsupervised learning is still a mystery. We're currently using unsupervised learning for people that's knowledgeable on this, more in terms of dimension reduction. If you think about PCA and so forth, if you think about K-means, for instance, utilized for clustering or self-organizing feature maps, it's all clustering and so forth. But there's a lot more that we need to do on unsupervised learning. If you just think about the human brain, there's a lot of things that we do in an unsupervised fashion. Then reason with purpose and interacts with human naturally. And here I'm just really referring to that partnership here, and I think it could be other companies and other organizations, but we just want to set the scene, set an example here, because this is, I think there's synergy here, because with Machine Intelligence Institute of Africa, it's about machine intelligence, data science, research and applications. And on the research side, it is about solving intelligence, advancing the state of the art. There's some people with interesting ideas. I know, Rikus, you've got some interesting ideas, and there's a few other people as well. So we want to start looking at the synergies and getting more people involved in very specific projects. And Jacques, you mentioned some interesting thing as well. We said we should also select projects carefully and then focus on that. And I think it's important to have the good understanding of this is the area I'm working in, and this is the specific focus. Maybe I've got a broader vision, but then we need to do very specific things. So I think projects that's meaningful, and that's what we try to do with MIIA, is to actually launch projects of meaning. Now, what was interesting, when I spoke to Barclays last week, they've got some research projects, and we said, we've got a MIIA community, there's 340 members. Not all of them are data scientists, but a lot of them are people that's capable and can do things. So they see this as valuable. They say, okay, great, so maybe we can actually start doing research projects and getting people involved. So this could be a vehicle to do that. And then we want to collaborate and partner with other organizations like OpenAI and all these other ones as well. And we want to contribute to open source projects where it makes sense to do so if we utilize them. Okay, so those were the two that I wanted to talk about. Before I get to Bennit, maybe just this. I talked about smart applications, and just as an example, intelligent virtual assistants and advisors are part of the next tech revolution. As you can clearly see, Google, for instance, Google got the Pixel phone, they've got Google Home, they're trying to compete with Alexa and so forth, and Siri and so forth. They're now capturing, they've got already the world's search data and stuff, but I think they're trying to capture a new stream of data, that's conversational data. And they talk about the transition, 2017-18, and then I think 2019, with all the data that's available, that a lot of people are using their assistants, I think it's going to be super interesting. Because deep learning and those techniques needs lots of data. It's data hungry, and you can create some very compelling solutions just based on what we have right now in terms of supervised deep learning. But I think there's so much more. Recurrent neural nets, even with that, there's quite a bit of stuff. And DeepMind is using reinforcement learning and really moving forward in that regard. But anyway, intelligent virtual assistants, I've just listed some examples here and things that we are looking at very specifically. So the one that I will show tonight is Bennit, and that's focused on manufacturing, production environment. We're actually doing that, looking to do that as a POC for Goodyear in Cleveland, Ohio, and then there's a number of other companies that's interested. But with this, it's the same kind of thing. So you need an end customer, and you because it's, I think, initially B2B, but you can create B2C kind of solutions here as well. But medical assistants and advisors, wellness, medical insurance, wealth management insurance, we know the banks are already coming and asking and building their own type of solutions, trying things out in this space. They realize that they are being heavily disrupted, so it's critical. On the educational front, if you think about knowledge assistants and tutors, there's some specific ideas actually on the slides, but I'm not going to go through that. There's personal shopping. IBM, for instance, acquired a company that provided an advisor for personal shopping, or assistant for personal shopping as well. So call centers, huge business case there, and then there's a bunch of other things as well. And this is just showing assistants that go from just giving information to providing assistance to providing advice and instructions. We actually go all the way to helping on that front. Okay. So I think, just in the interest of time, I'm going to skip all of this, and maybe what I want to do is just quickly show you. Sorry for all this. Here's a bunch of slides here. Okay, this was machine intelligence landscape 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. You can't see it, but it's in the LinkedIn article. I've got a link to this and actually a screen cap of that. But this is all just little small companies startups and the big players, big tech players, penetrating pretty much the whole the industry landscape, so agriculture, education, investment, legal, logistics, materials, retail, finance, healthcare. It's got a thing on its own. Patients, images, biological stuff. And then on the enterprise, if you look at any company, you will see visual, audio, sensor, internal data market. But then on the function side, you will see so many, this is all AI companies focused on very specific things. Customer support, sales, marketing, security, recruiting. And on this side, interesting, there's now a mature technology stack that's evolving. And so you've got companies that's focused on enabling things like agent enablers. So they help you to create agents and bots. There's the tools that supports data science. There's tools that supports machine learning, natural language processing, development, data capturing, open source libraries, hardware, and then the research companies. So this is companies that's trying to advance the state of the art as well, like OpenAI, Vicarious, and a few others as well. But anyway, so it looks fairly comprehensive. So I just wanted to, I promise I'm going to show that. So, and yeah, by the way, just as a final comment here, I'm not going to go into details, but what I've listed here, this is quite interesting. I put it in the LinkedIn article. There's a bunch of companies, and it actually goes down all the way. You can see companies that focus on advancing the state of the art of machine intelligence. I've got links there. I have an indication if it's a non-profit. I've got an indication with what country, and then the focus of that particular organization or company, and some of the leading individuals in there. And I've even put MIIA on there as well, because we're representative of Africa, and we wanted to show different countries and continents. Okay, so Bennit, I'm going to be fairly quick with Bennit. Okay, this is Bennit. So I'll do quick presentation, very quick, a few minutes, and then I'll try and do the demo. Hopefully the internet connection is good. But Bennit is, you will see there's a little AI there, but Bennit AI is really all about, I founded this company with guys in the US that's deep into manufacturing. The one guy is the president of MIIA, the Manufacturing Enterprise Solutions Association, so he understands manufacturing well. And at General Electric, we all work in that space, manufacturing space, as well industrial space. And the other guy is also GE and Rockwell. But they've also realized that there's an interesting need along with me, and we said, okay, we should do something about this. And so we've created, it's still in the early stages of the startup, but creating a self-learning, personalized virtual production assistant advisor for people that's in that production environment. So if you're a supervisor or an operator in a plant, operating a machine, you want to know what machines are down, who on my team is on leave, or what is happening, or what's the performances of my particular section in my plant. You want all sorts of systems. Maybe you just want to know more about this particular process. For instance, if it's like Goodyear, for instance, where you look at tire manufacturing, you want to understand. Maybe you work in a certain area like assembly, and now you're going to move to curing, and you want to know what's more about this, or you want to know something about the standard operating procedures of working with this machine or in this, you want to get a better understanding. And the whole idea is that Bennit gives you that answers. So it needs to connect to plant data, enterprise data, it needs to connect to manufacturing purpose, so you need to train it as well on that, and that's what we do with Watson. But then it needs to interact in a simple way. So the voice that we use is the one that was used in Jeopardy. So that is the standard. So you will see when we go through it. On YouTube, you will anyway see a comprehensive demo where we show all the functionalities and so forth. But it's really a virtual production assistant that saves time and makes industrial users more productive throughout the day. And how does Bennit save time and make industrial users more productive throughout the day? And it's really, you can bring in, optimize even personal time. So ask maybe questions. If you give it access to your calendar and emails and those type of things as well, it can tell you, or say for instance, it's got access to weather, what's the weather like, or whatever, or how it's going to impact. So this is stuff that you can anyway get with Google Assistant. By the way, I've played around with Illah as well, Google's Illah. It's quite nice. And Siri and so forth. I've got an iPhone, so I'm using Siri as well. I'm actually using Illah and Siri. And I've also played around. Barclays has got APSA's got a chat bot on Facebook Messenger that you can play around with if you're at Barclays. But it's very limited, but it's still quite interesting. You just talk, or you can just specify it. You don't need to. You can say pay Peter 10, and it will actually look up who's Peter, and it will know it's 10, and it will confirm it, but it will actually do the transaction for you. So you can see that these kind of things are happening. But here you can see it's obviously using AI technology, but you need to have natural language interface, natural language processing, user input. And what we also bring in here, which is quite a differentiator, is you've got lots of experts, maybe people that's retired or people that's available, that's knowledgeable on a certain machine or plant or whatever, and maybe you sit in a situation, you're a supervisor, and you just want to test ideas. And so this could also be a way, apart from this manufacturing corpus, to actually get them involved as well. And you can say, okay, and maybe you've got these kind of people that you can access via this as well. And I think the integrated device and systems is obviously important to access plant data. So it's okay. So MIIA production supervisor loses. This is just one use case. Loses up to 1 hour of productivity every shift change. So this is something else, very practical. They need to go from one shift to another shift, and they are less productive when they do that. So you want to optimize on that. You want to save time. And there was all sorts of stats. If you just save time in manufacturing in the US, there's something like $95 billion or something. Just if you think about just an hours of saving, if you can make people more productive, there's a business case there. Okay, so I'm gonna skip some of this because I want to quickly show you a demo. just finally, some of the use cases. So it's about productivities like shift changes, preparation, out of process, intervention, interplant, downtime responses, safety. Okay, this is another thing. I know the guys at Shell, for instance, they want something that helps facilitate, record anything that's close to a safety incident. As you know, plants that are very serious about in the industrial world, it's different to any other place. They want to make sure that they've got the safety issues down to zero. So and they are penalised heavily if it's not the case. So they've got a great incentive to make sure that things are safe and secure for people working in that environment. So anything around near misses and recording of that, checking on people, all of those type of things are valuable. So if you've got a cell phone, or you've got an example of a Texas Instrument sensor tag, and in the demo, I'm not going to show it tonight, but you've got buttons that you can press. But inside, this is like, it's got the same sensors as a phone as well. You've got GPS and accelerometer and all sorts of stuff. If you start moving it around, then that information, if it shakes and you fall down, whatever, you can pick up on that. So same with the phone, so you can do that. But there's panic buttons. You can use one of the keys as a panic button and stuff. You press that, and I've got examples of that where it actually creates on the phone. Suddenly it's an alert message, and it tells you something wrong, what's going on. So it tells you just because I've pressed this button, and then you can act on that. And it actually kicks off the safety dialogue. Try to record things, and so I can call 911, or I guess obviously in the US. And then the other two is around quality, knowledge, just getting more information about what's happening there, and then any risk-related things is also important. Okay, and there's probably not time now to go into the architectural things too much. Maybe the only thing I want to say here is, this is maybe interesting. So you've got your web apps or mobile applications. What you have on the server side is a bunch of things. You need to have, obviously, on the provider cloud, mobile, runtime environments, and so forth. And here you can see your intelligent services, like IBM Watson, for instance, that we're using here, but you can plug and play. You can decide you want to use Google Speech Recognition API, or you can use for certain things TensorFlow, open source things, etc. And then if you want to connect to devices, you've got IoT platforms. We've been using Watson IoT to connect to these Texas Instrument sensor tags. But you can also hook up directly to your plant enterprise data as well. Also via IoT, like Telet, for instance, but via web APIs you can access this information. But on the data side, which is interesting, here you have, first of all, the user context. And that's interesting. So where you can decide what information you want to capture. So in our case, we're capturing, first of all, the basic information about this individual. So where is he, what kind of work does he do, what's his role, responsibilities, and where does it fit in, and so forth. And maybe what devices are registered with me, what sensor tags or whatever. But I think the other thing that's interesting here is you want to capture daily interactions. You want to detect patterns over time. So you can actually capture in NoSQL, in the cloud and NoSQL database, you create documents that captures daily information about users, and then you can mine that data and you can provide all sorts of interesting analysis on top of that, which makes it interesting. So that becomes very valuable, and a new type of database, a new data stream. That's interesting. Manufacturing corpus data, expert data, and you've got obviously your plant and enterprise. But now you can look at other things like finance and so forth. You've got the same kind of thing, actually. You're also creating a new stream of data there effectively. Okay, so I'll skip the rest of the slides. So let's just see if I've got, I'm gonna go to internet. Well, by the way, this is the article that you can read. So I've got Bennit open here. Let's see, I've got internet. So what I'm going to do is, let's just refresh this.
Hi, Jacques. I'm Bennit, your personal production assistant. My sole focus is to save you time and help make your life better. Jacques, your user details are as follows.
Or you mean if you put it in here?
Device ID 34B1F7B500.
AF9.
Okay. Now we've got Watson and we've got me. Okay, so basically what happened here, cloud service, and this is what you will see on your phone as well. We've got a version actually for Android, we're creating the iOS version, but this is, so just imagine your phone there. You will see buttons there. This is where you can actually speak to it if you press that, and that is when you actually enable IBM Watson to actually do the speech to text. So basically what happened here is, because I've already logged in here with my Google authentication, it authenticates that it's me. And that's why it says not just hi Jacques, it says hi Jacques Ludik, because and it comes up, I'm Bennit, your personal production assistant, and this is what I want to do. And because this information, I've done this before, it just goes back to that user database, the SQL Cloud database, and just picks that up. And it says my role is management, my area is curing, my equipment is press, and that's my device ID. And that device ID is actually my sensor tag. And then you can also listen to other sensor tags and so forth. So it brings that up straight away. So now I can say, actually, okay, I'm going to quickly type. I'm going to just like this if you can hear me. So I'm going to say, hi Bennit.
Hello, Jacques Ludik. I'm doing good. I'm here to help you. Just say the word.
Bennit, Watson. Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna start with. I want to do a survey. I'm going to do a survey.
Great, Jacques Ludik. Let's get started. Help us understand the general flow of material product through your plant. Is it synchronous one-piece flows, asynchronous, continuous?
Okay, it's mixed.
Thanks. Does your product flow follow a defined path or flexible routing?
Okay, defined. It's fine.
How is scheduling done? Is it repetitive, blanket order releases? Describe your product model mix in any given period or major equipment grouping. Relatively limited, e.g. limited by hard assets and tooling.
So and then I can just say...
Okay, Jacques Ludik, the dialogue has been cancelled. Thank you for your inputs. We can always continue this later.
Okay, so I've got an example. Say, for instance, there's actually another demo, driving to work, where it can... so I'll just quickly do that.
Hi, Jacques Ludik. How can I help you?
So I'm going to say what machines are down and who called in sick today.
Jacques Ludik, sure. The equipment in your area that is currently down is Force Machine 10 in the warehouse conveyor. 2 people from your shift have called in sick. Also, you should know that the maintenance team had unplanned downtime last shift. Press 12 and Press 22 were both down for 3 hours. They are back running, but production was impacted by 2%.
So I could say, what is my daughter's practice?
Sarah's practice is at 6:30. We received notice last night that the location was moved to River Road Park. Thanks, Jacques Ludik. You're welcome.
Okay, and then I think what's interesting, you can start capturing, for instance, you can create patterns around this. I want to say start of day. So I'm going to say start day.
Welcome, Jacques Ludik. Let's make this a great day. Anything major planned for today?
Yes.
Okay, Jacques Ludik, do you know of anything that might impact production today? Jacques Ludik, how are you feeling today?
Excellent. And it will respond.
Fantastic, Jacques Ludik. Let's be super productive today.
Okay, so you can have this end of day dialogue. There's a bunch of other things as well. But say, for instance, I've got a problem. Just look at the danger. So I've got a danger. I've got a problem.
Jacques Ludik, do we have a safety incident?
Yes.
Jacques Ludik, do you need help?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Jacques Ludik, stay calm. We'll be calling 911 right now. Please describe the issue if you can.
Okay, I was almost hit by a forklift.
Thanks, Jacques Ludik. Much appreciated. The incident has been captured. Are there any additional information?
No.
Safety report. Name, Jacques Ludik. Role, management, area, curing. My apologies, Jacques
I said to him,
Ludik.
stupid.
I'll do better next time.
And he will react to that. And if you, it's just the standard things around. You can ask him about weather, and you can do all sorts of different things. So it's fairly robust, handles a variety of different responses. But say, for instance, I want to ask something more specific, like domain knowledge around my plant. So I can do the following.
Jacques Ludik, I understand you need some more domain-specific manufacturing information. How can I help you?
I'm just going to ask something about tire processes.
There are 6 basic processes in the manufacture of tires. Mixing of carbon blacks, elastomers, and chemicals in the Benberry mixer to form the rubber compound. Jacques Ludik, what information do you need?
Okay. Okay, so what is vulcanization? And it comes up with
The rubber components of the tire are vulcanized by steam-generated heat in the mold, and bladder at pressure is hot. Thanks, Jacques Ludik. I'm here to support you.
Okay, you get the gist. So if you go to the YouTube video, you'll see a bunch of other things as well. What the interesting stuff, we press panic buttons and do all sorts of different things. But you can see the ability to access. Yeah, thanks. You can see the ability to access manufacturing corpus information, plant data. I can for instance say reports, performance reports, and I can say I want to look at
Jacques Ludik, which report would you like to see?
I would like to see, there's a bunch of reports. So it's intro report, just information about myself, but I can say machine, I can just say performance. I wonder if that would be performance reports.
The requested report is not available.
So that's not available, so I say reports, and I can say my intro.
Jacques Ludik, which report would you like to see?
Say introduction report, because it captures my introduction. So
Introduction report.
just say
Name, Jacques Ludik. Role, management, area,
Okay.
curing,
Okay.
equipment.
Go.
Thanks, Jacques Ludik. It's my pleasure.
Okay, so took a bit longer, so thank you very much for